The issue then is, once we've got a handle on what these schmellers are, the issue is whether we can perform induction on schmellers. Whether it's OK to perform induction on schmellers. So here's a bag. The bag contains things that some stones that I bought in Michael's this morning. And they assured me that they were semi-precious. And I've been very, very careful when I just did all that. I was very careful not to look in the bag. So nothing inside of this bag has as yet been observed in Starter before 11:40, October 22nd, 2013. It might be about to be. OK, so what I'd like you to do, I want you to reach into the bag, pull out a single stone, and announce its schmeller. Just don't look. Whatever you do, don't look. It's very important. OK, hold it up.
It's GRU.
It's GRU. Don't look.
GRU.
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 It's GRU.
So we've had a lot of GRUs. OK, so now the issue is, we're going to pick out, you'll pick out one last thing from the bag at 11, after 11:40. OK, so now I want you to predict what schmeller is that stone going to be. Now, the person who correctly predicts the schmeller of the stone is going to get the candy bar. So let's have a volunteer. Bleen. I see. So you're going for Bleen, even though all these ones up to now were GRU. OK, what was your name?
Helen.
Helen. So Helen gets the candy bar if that stone is Bleen. Very surprising, right? Given that all the ones up to now were GRU, and you're saying, though, the next one that we see is going to be Bleen. Like, weird. Anybody else going to, yeah?
Are they necessarily blue or green?
I can tell you that they are either green or blue. Yes. Yes. What's your name? Sorry? Lauren. So you've got an alternative. Your only chance of getting the candy bar is, I suppose, now if you. GRU. Lauren's going for GRU. OK. Great. So Helen, can you explain why you're pretty confident that you're going to get the candy bar? I mean, after all, I just want to point out that Lauren was performing what appeared to be like good induction on the property of GRUness. So, and if induction is a good method, like, why is Lauren not like a certainty to get the candy bar? I mean, odds are.
So every stone was green. So by induction, I think the next stone is going to be green in color. But the time difference means that the second property, S, is going to be different. So while green you can do by induction, since like the time is a different property, but it's based on something concrete that we can know, you can know that it won't be S. So if it's green and won't be S, then it has to be Bleen.
Good. OK, so your first observation was that you were performing induction, in spite of the fact that they were all GRU, but you thought the last one isn't GRU. You were performing like perfectly good induction. You were saying, they've all been green, right? So the last one will probably be green too. OK, but Lauren was performing induction too, right? She was thinking they've all been GRU. I don't know if you really think that. Pretend you were thinking that. They've all been GRU, so the next one will be GRU too. So what this shows is that the simple hypothesis can't be right, because you're both performing perfectly good induction, right? And yet you're getting different results. Right? So it can't be that it works for all properties. So what you're, I take it, thinking is that green is what we're going to call a projectable property. Namely, when you've seen a bunch of things are green, right, then when you've seen all A's that we've seen so far are green, right, then you're licensed to think that probably all of them are green. GRU is not a projectable property, in the sense that when you've seen that all the A's we've seen so far are GRU, you're not licensed to think the next one is probably going to be GRU too. OK, so can anybody try to explain why green is a projectable property and GRU is not a projectable property? What's so good about performing induction on greenness and so bad about performing induction on GRUness?
Predicting whether something is grue or bleen is dependent on time, whereas predicting whether something is green or blue is not dependent on time.
Dependent on time. Now tell me what you mean by dependent on time. I know, I'm kind of getting a sense of what you might mean, but tell exactly what you mean. I mean, remember, the schmellers don't change.
For this particular instance, if we consider each stone as a separate instance, depending on which one was left in the bag, that one could have been either bleen or grue. I suppose we don't know yet. But depending on chance, the one that was a bleen or grue would have been different in every case on how it was pulled out.
So depending on chance, I'm pulling...
It's random which one gets left in the bag.
Yeah.
So in different cases, different pebbles, if you had, suppose you had numbered them, then pebble number 5 might have been the last one left one time, whereas this one is pebble number 1.
Right, and you think the idea is, suppose the first pebble that got pulled out, your idea is if that had turned out to be the last one in the bag, then we'd have pulled it out, and we would have thought, oh look, that's curious, it's bleen, right?
Yes.
And so that indicates, why does that indicate that?
Well, and depending on how it's observed, you get different results for whether pebble 1 is bleen or grue, but no matter what, it'll always be a green pebble.
I see. So the thought is that whether or not it's right for us to say this is grue or bleen depends on when we first observe it. Whereas whether or not it's right for us to say that a thing is green or blue doesn't depend on when we first observe it.
Yes.
So your idea is that the non-projectable properties are like time of observation dependent in a way that the projectable properties aren't. And that's what makes the non-projectable properties non-projectable. Your thought is that in order to understand whether or not a thing is grue or bleen, we need to know when it was seen, right? Whereas in order to understand whether the thing is green or blue, we don't need to know when it was seen. Now, somebody who takes a grue or bleen projector is going to dispute you on this. I mean, imagine a grue or bleen projector could say, yeah, it was true that for you people who started off with the colors, in order to define colors, schmellers, in terms of colors, we need to say a thing is grue if and only if it's green and S, or it's blue and not S. A thing is bleen if and only if it's blue and S, or it's green and not S. But it's actually symmetrical. Suppose you start off with a firm idea about what the schmellers are, right? The schmellers are grue and bleen. And then we say, now I want to understand these strange things, colors. How could you explain to me, if I understood what the schmellers were, but I didn't know what colors were, how could you explain to me what colors were? Well, you'd have to say, a thing is green if and only if it's grue and S, or bleen and not S. Did I get that right? Yeah. And a thing is blue if and only if it's bleen and S, or grue and not S. So for somebody who's like a really committed schmeller projector and believes in schmellers and believes these are the fundamental properties of the world, they're going to say, you know, these colors, these are really weird. In order to know whether a thing has a particular color, I have to know not just what schmeller it has, I have to know when it was first observed, right? And so I need this additional information in addition to the basic facts about its schmellers. I need to know when it was first observed. And that's why these greenness and blueness, these weird properties, that's why they're not projectable, because they're observation dependent.